Yo, what is up you guys? So in today's video we're going to talk about some melodies. So I really kind of just have some writing tips for you. To get more into theory, you kind of have to read up on that and really understand how progressions are made first. So that's kind of why I started there with this kind of series. I'm not sure if this is a series yet, but previously when we talked about writing tips, I've talked about scales and progressions. So you guys remember this session, we worked on this before, and this is my writing session. And last time we were talking about progression, so we were making stuff like this. So we were working on stuff like that last time, and in this video we're going to kind of just focus a little bit more on melodies. So those are the kind of things we'll be doing, so let's just start off with a new one. Alright, so I quickly changed the colors so it's less confusing for you guys to look at. So the yellow is the bass, the pink stuff is the top line, melody, and the blue group here is just the chords and maybe some extra top line layers. So we're going to just get started with this now. So I've already made a section over here that I can bring in a new bass. So like I did with the first example, I started off with a bass, and I'm going to do the same here. So the reason why I do that is because if you just put together, melodies and bass like this, if they're really solid and good sounding by itself, once you add in all the other chords and layers, it just sounds really cool. So for example, just melody, top line, and bass. So let's just get rid of everything, and what I'll do here is I'll just delete everything else, kind of just figure it out. And I like to have sustaining bass, but sometimes you can have the long rolling bass or whatever kind of bass line you want. So that's why it's somewhat important to start off with bass sometimes, because if you want to have a long progressing one, then that tells you what your chords will be like, and then that gives you a lot of freedom with the melody. Or if you make a bass line, then you really have to make sure that works good with your drum kits first, and then you can figure out a melody on top of that won't come in weird places. So I guess it'd be good to show both of those. So let's just make an easy one first, and then we'll rewrite this one a little bit more complex. Okay, so now we have our bass. And now let's write some chords. So what we'll do is just take this MIDI right here, and we'll bring it up here. And now we can start making a progression out of this. So we're going to take the bass line information and then figure out how we're going to change each chord into whatever. Now we can also figure out more of a rhythm if we wanted to, or we could have long sustaining notes like I've had in the first two examples. So I think because we kept the bass line simple, let's keep the chords simple and then just make the melody kind of the big shining part of it. So by keeping the bass line, the chords very long and sustaining and simple, we get to make a melody that steals the show a bit more. So now let's just copy this layer to all the other layers. So very simple. So now we have a ton of room to go crazy with a melody. So good thing is I didn't really write a rhythm or anything, so I'm totally free rhythmically and melodically to just write whatever. So let's just get writing with this. So I'm going to use some of this information to give me an idea of where I want my chords to go. Now we have it on the melody lines, so the pink ones. So what we're going to do is just delete everything, just use this basic information in case I want my melody to follow kind of the chord structure or the chord progression. But sometimes I like melodies that are just repetitive, that just keep repeating. They don't really change with the chords. To me, the more you can make a melody that's repetitive in a good way, it's easier for the listener just to get a little bit more hooked than if you have a changing progressive melody that it's harder to follow because it's just, there's more to it, it's more complex. Like for example, with the first example here, the melody just repeats itself over and over, and then I just kind of change it up in the third bar to kind of have that variation that's needed. But other than small rhythmic changes, it's mostly repeating, and everything else is just kind of changing, so you can see the chords are changing and all that. And in the second example, it's kind of the same thing there as well. It's the same rhythm, it's kind of repeating. I don't think I even changed a thing. So if you like more complex melodies that kind of progress with in a chord progression style, then you can do that. Just for me, I tend to like the more repetitive type melodies. I don't know. It's just what I like. So, do whatever to your own taste. So let's throw this in there. Let's get working on this melody. So you can see I was just really listening to the bass line and the melody together to kind of get a good idea of what I might want to do. And, I just kept it simple. This is a video, so I'm not going to treat this like I would when I'm writing by myself. So I wrote something really simple. I kept it repetitive, and I can actually kind of like it too. So now we can start adding in variations. So the third bar or the fourth bar, either one, we have to make a variation there so that it does have a level of complexity that it intrigues people. So this is kind of like what a lot of people call waking up a progression. So you just keep like most bars of it kind of boring, and then somewhere in the third or fourth bar, or sometimes people do in the second one, you just kind of do something really different, whether it's placing everything a little bit higher, a little bit lower, or just changing up the rhythm, something to kind of just spice it up, add the variation in, and that wakes up the progression. So let's try to wake this up. So you can see the only thing I changed was I just made the two root notes a little bit higher on the third bar, and I just kind of changed them up a little bit, and it brought this whole nice kind of feeling together. So the reason why I kept everything so simple so far is so you can see that simplicity, less is more basically, really is kind of true in a lot of cases. So this is easy, anyone could write this, and it's effective. So now imagine taking that, the basic stuff, and then building upon it with creative ideas, and that's how people get pretty cool results. Anyways, so let's just layer this now. So let's drag this over. Let's listen to everything. So before we listen to everything, I think because how tight the melody and bass line seem to be, now I kind of want to do something a little bit more rhythmic with the chords and see if that changes anything. So what I can now do, now that I'm done with the melody, is I can go back over here and kind of rewrite the progression a bit. So what I can do is just, I can copy all this, go to one of these layers, I'll just mute all the other ones for now, and I can just paste this in. And let's go up an octave. So, alright, so now that I pasted this in, what I can do is actually just take the rhythm of this and apply it to the chords. So let's just do this really quick. We'll just draw out these notes, just kind of get the rhythm going. Alright, so we've converted the whole thing to be a little bit more rhythmic, so let's just listen to that. Alright, so you saw how I added the rhythm of the melody into the chord structure, and I left one layer with the sustaining structure. So you can see this one I didn't change, I just left it in there. So it's good to have like a layer of that. So the benefit of, writing each of these parts one by one, like writing a bass line first and writing a melody later and chords, is because we can always use all that MIDI information to rewrite other things and still leave other elements in. So we get to have sustaining MIDI with a kind of rhythmic type of progression. So now let's just listen to all that and see how it combines. Alright, so I deleted everything out, or I just kind of muted it, and now what we're going to do is start in the second method, just starting with a melody first and then building everything else around it. So the first example was just really to show how you can use your bass line to inform you of the kind of melody you want and things like that. So now I think we should just write a melody. So let's just bring this over, delete everything, and let's get started. Alright, so you guys saw what I did there. So we kind of looked at two different ways to kind of sneak up on the melody just to see how it's made. I don't directly like writing the melody first. I kind of like to do it the first way I did it, where I make my bass line first and then I kind of just write some chords and then extract MIDI from there. So I think that's a bit easier, but I mean, sometimes you'll just write a quick melody on a keyboard and it just works and everything else falls around it. So in that case, if you write your melody first and you just kind of put everything else together. So hopefully you guys got the point of this video being that we're just trying to do simple things so you can see how more complex stuff would be made. So if you guys want to see a tutorial on how to make the bass line patches that I made, let me know, because I have the session right here, so let me know. So thanks guys for watching, and of course, let's